She'd sacrificed for 20 years to raise her son on her own.
She worked long hours at a fast food restaurant.
All the regulars just adored her.
This is my grandson.
Everyone that came in contact with her loved her.
Ma'am?
And her death shook the entire town.
It was something out of a horror movie.
She had been tied up.
Her skull was fractured.
Nobody deserves to die like that.
All the signs point to a twisted predator.
The perpetrator had a bondage fetish.
He's obsessed with control.
He may be suffering from some mental health issues.
People in his life have no idea.
Hey.
But he's not the only one with a secret.
Where are we going?
She fell on harder times.
She needed something more lucrative.
That's probably the most tragic thing.
You are putting yourself in a very vulnerable position.
And if a person has ill intent, there's an opportunity.
November 15th, 2005. It's a beautiful fall morning in Rome, Georgia, a city of more than 30,000 an hour north of Atlanta.
Rome is a small town, it's slower paced.
It's just a little small area where everybody seems to know everybody.
So when something major happens, usually everyone knows about it.
And this Tuesday morning, something major has happened to Rome resident Jeff Franks.
I ended up calling my cousin. See, my cousin's a deputy coroner.
Hello? Hey, I need your help with something.
Jeff tells his cousin he'd been out hunting that morning.
And as he was on his way home, Jeff had pulled off on a side road to use the restroom.
So there's a church pit, and I pulled up in there.
When I pulled the truck in, I seen her laying in the pit.
He saw what he thought possibly could be a body.
Ma'am? You okay?
And she's covered in blood.
It shook me up, and, I throwed it in reverse and took off.
Then, once he got home, he called his cousin.
I didn't know what to do. I freaked out.
I wasn't gonna call the police. I was gonna let somebody else call them.
You gotta help me.
His cousin then calls first responders, and before long, they are swarming the scene.
When they arrive, police confirm that the woman is dead.
She suffered traumatic injuries to her head.
No pulse.
She's dead.
There's no ID near the body.
Gun started a major crime.
But when homicide detectives arrive, they find a way to identify her.
The woman is wearing a set of dentures.
And in those dentures is a name etched in.
Her name is Susan Christian.
"44-year-old Susan Christian was loved by everyone who knew her.
She had a smile that just drew people in.
She made friends everywhere she went.
Everybody just loved her.
Growing up, she was popular in school and in her church,
Church was one of the biggest part of her life.
especially the church choir.
Singing was one of her passions.
But the most important thing in her life was her family.
Susan came from a big family. She had 7 siblings.
Being the older sister, she took on a lot of babysitting roles. That was the way family was brought up.
And that sense of responsibility she learned in her childhood applied even more when she became a mother herself.
Can you help me with a question, please?
Of course, love.
She was a single mom, and the relationship that she had with her son, it was amazing.
Her son had what he needed. He never went without, and he knew his mom loved him.
Because Susan was determined to make a future for her child, no matter what it took.
She worked a lot of long hours at a local fast food restaurant.
All the regulars that go there, they just adored her. She was just a really pleasant person to be around.
And after years of struggling to make ends meet, Susan's hard work paid off.
Her son became an adult and he was able to get out on his own.
Not long after, he'd even had a son of his own.
I got the bottle.
To just be there for him, as she has always been, it's like a whole new level of motherhood for her. It was beautiful.
She was finally able to focus on herself and her second act.
But there would be no second act for Susan Christian.
Hello? Hey, I need your help with something.
A man named Jeff Franks
Ma'am?
had just found her body in an isolated area outside of town.
When I pulled up in there, she was laying there.
I didn't know what to do. I freaked out.
He called his cousin, and that cousin was the one who reported the crime to the authorities.
And when detectives arrived at the scene, they identified Susan from the name on her dentures.
She suffered traumatic injuries to her head.
There's a large rock covered in blood near her head.
It was immediately obvious that Susan died in a horrific, unnatural way.
But is that the only horror she suffered?
She's in her underwear. Her clothes seem to be strewn around her body.
She had been tied up, her wrists and ankles.
In the small town of Rome, Georgia, everyone knew 44-year-old Susan Christian.
She was known for being bubbly and friendly.
Everyone that came in contact with her loved her.
She loved singing, she loved church, and most importantly, she loved being a mother.
She was a new grandmother,
I got the bottle.
and she found great joy in that.
Ma'am? You okay?
But now, a hunter has found Susan's body in the woods on the outskirts of town.
How she was left. It was something that you would actually see out of a horror movie.
To the detectives, it appears that she'd been sexually assaulted.
How could a person do someone like that and then leave them like that, like they were an animal?
Detectives suspect that sex work could have led to her death.
When they return to the station and reach out to the people closest to Susan, they discover their hunch was correct.
Friends said that she had a hard time making ends meet as a single mom.
After her son moved out of the house, she fell on harder times.
So when can I see you again?
You know the deal.
Financial struggles came very readily apparent.
You going out this time?
Yeah.
She needed something more lucrative than her fast food job.
So after much thought, she began offering her services as an escort.
Her friends were concerned, but Susan felt like it was her only option despite the risks.
They worried that something bad might happen to her.
She assured them that she ran her business as safely as she possibly could.
She would arrange her dates over the phone so there'd be a record of who she was seeing.
She felt like this could help her control the setting.
But could sex work have led to her death despite these safeguards?
There's no safe precautions when an individual chooses to do sex work because you cannot always control the situation. At some point, you're going to be vulnerable.
The killer might be a client.
But when the detectives asked if they knew who any of her clients were, they said no.
That wasn't something they talked about.
However, they said there may be someone who can help.
Susan did have a roommate.
His name is Daryl Wilkins.
He may know more information.
After talking to Susan's friends, the detectives head to the rental home she shared with Daryl.
Daryl Wilkins opens the door and confirms that he's Susan's roommate.
He's a little suspicious about why detectives are there.
You mind if we ask you a few questions about Susan Christian?
Yeah, sure. She in some kind of trouble?
He was very cautious in the beginning.
But his attitude changes when the detectives reveal the nature of their visit.
Susan's been murdered.
A hunter found her body this morning.
What?
He cannot believe that she's dead.
He becomes very cooperative.
And he is fully aware of Susan's activities as an escort.
In fact, Daryl isn't just aware, he's involved.
He says that he will often help Susan coordinate meetings with her clients.
He said he'd answer the phones and take messages for her.
She only arranged meetings over the phone, and because she wanted to control the setting, most of the times her clients came to her home.
Look, she wasn't out there in the streets like that, you know?
However, according to Daryl, she did make a few exceptions.
There were times that she would meet them outside and go somewhere else with them.
In fact, he said that's what happened yesterday.
He does state to authorities that on the date of November 14th, she did have 2 clients that she was meeting with, that he was aware of. She had one client end at 5:15, and then at 5:30, she had another client who was picking her up.
You going out this time?
Yep. I'll be back later.
But according to Daryl, she never came back.
Did that worry you?
I mean, a little bit, but, you know, sometimes she doesn't really tell me what's going on.
He didn't know what happened after that.
And he didn't know who she was supposed to meet.
But could there be a way to find out?
When the detectives asked Daryl, could they look around, he said, "Be my guest."
Looking around the house, detectives find a cell phone in Susan's room.
Is this Susan's cell phone?
Yeah, that's hers.
Detectives took the phone with them, hoping that one of her contacts would provide a good lead.
Back at the station, the detectives try to identify the last client Susan supposedly met.
Detectives go through the phone and they start calling all of the numbers that they find.
To avoid alerting anyone of their purposes, they told them that they found a phone and they're just trying to find the rightful owner.
And I was wondering, can you help me out?
The results are disappointing.
Thank you.
Most people are unhelpful.
It was likely that some of the men they talked to were clients of Susan's, but didn't want to own up to it.
But after dozens of fruitless calls, detectives finally catch a break.
Out of all the people that they speak to, only one confirms that that is in fact Susan's phone.
His name is Mike Campbell. When detectives tell him that they are investigating her murder, he admits that he's one of her regular clients.
In fact, he may have been one of the last people who saw Susan alive.
He saw her the day that she was killed.
It was the gentleman that left at 5:15 that day.
So when can I see you again?
You know the deal.
Detectives investigating the murder of 44-year-old sex worker Susan Christian have just made contact with one of her clients, a man named Mike Campbell.
He saw her the very same day that she was killed.
But does that mean he's her killer or merely a possible witness?
He said that he left her at the house around 5:15.
According to Susan's roommate, Daryl, she left to see another client soon after.
Hoping Mike might have some insight into Susan's other clients, the detectives ask him to come down to the station.
And when he arrived, he seemed genuinely shocked by Susan's death.
She was a good woman. I mean, I know what we were doing is illegal, but still.
He tells detectives that his date with Susan that afternoon was no different than their previous encounters.
He showed up at her house at his scheduled time. They had sex, and then he left.
Mike said he left her home at 5:15.
which lines up with what Susan's roommate Daryl already told detectives.
Daryl said that she saw someone else there that afternoon. Did she say anything to you about that?
No, like, she's real discreet about that stuff.
You didn't see anyone else at the house when you left?
I wish I had something to tell you, but no.
He left immediately. He has no idea what happened to her.
They ask Mike where he went after he dropped off Susan, and he states that he met up with some friends afterwards.
All right, I think we're done here.
And when the detectives follow up on his alibi, it checks out.
That immediately eliminated him as a suspect.
No closer to identifying the killer, the detectives reach out to Jeff Franks, the man who found Susan's body.
The question that keeps coming up is, why did Mr. Franks not call law enforcement?
Instead, he called his cousin.
That just really doesn't make sense to the authorities.
Was it possible he was trying to distance himself from Susan's murder?
Maybe he's Mr. 530.
When the detectives ask him to come in for an interview, Franks agrees.
Me finding her and all, out somebody that you're gonna look at. That's just like if husband and wife died. They gonna look at him. He's the closest person to her. And I was the person that found her.
Look, I know how it looks, but there's a reason I didn't call the police.
I was scared of the police worse than I was scared of finding hers, I wasn't too good a boy back then.
Jeff did not have what you would call a clean criminal history.
I was a junkie. I smoked ice, crack cocaine, I drank. I didn't care.
I'm a drinker, That doesn't mean I killed her.
So that's really just not adding up for the authorities. So they continue to press Jeff on what really happened.
So you didn't tie her up?
Bash her head in with a rock?
No!
Jeff continues to deny that he has anything to do with Susan's murder.
But is he telling the truth?
You sit tight. We have a warrant for your truck.
They got their swabs out and swabbed it and everything.
When the authorities search his vehicle, there's blood in the back of the truck.
Confronted by the detectives, Jeff says he can explain.
The day before I found her, I had killed a deer.
Found blood in the back of your truck.
He said he'd driven the kill home in his truck.
And that was what the authorities found in the back of his truck.
But the detectives aren't about to take his word for it.
The police forensic unit send those blood samples out to a lab for DNA analysis to confirm whether it is deer blood or if there's any other type of blood or DNA that might be present in the back of Jeff's truck.
They thought I was the #1 suspect.
Instead, Franks turns out to be a dead end.
When the authorities get the lab results back regarding the blood, it is in fact confirmed that it was not human blood, so the authorities are back basically to square one in their investigation.
With nowhere else to turn, the detectives track down other sex workers in the community.
The escort profession, the females commonly know each other.
And the detectives believe the killer may be a client with a particular fetish.
She had been tied up, her wrists and ankles.
But will any of them be willing to cooperate?
They're very hesitant to talk to law enforcement because what they do is considered a crime.
So to no one's surprise, none of the girls wanted to cooperate with the authorities in this investigation.
Until finally,
Hello?
the detectives speak to a woman named Naomi Parker.
She does reveal to authorities that she is a sex worker as well.
But Naomi wanted to be as helpful as possible.
Yes.
She does want to speak. She wants to come forward.
Naomi says she is furious about Susan's death.
She tells the authorities that she was friends with Susan and that they were very close.
Yeah.
She wants the killer caught as quickly as possible.
And she thinks she can help.
She believes she knows who the killer is.
How do you know that?
'Cause He's a client of mine too.
She had this one client who was into some pretty kinky stuff.
He enjoyed tying women up.
With the help of a woman named Naomi Parker, detectives investigating the brutal murder of Susan Christian may have identified a person of interest.
Naomi was one of Susan's closest friends and also a sex worker.
This guy's a client?
Yeah. His name's Sean.
She said this particular gentleman has been a client of hers for almost a decade.
According to Naomi, Sean had recently become a client of Susan's, too.
Sean had told her that he wanted to start seeing other girls and not just her.
So Naomi introduced him to Susan.
He knows her as Miss Molly, though.
And Naomi says she has a good reason to suspect Sean had something to do with Susan's death.
She reveals that he at times would tie her up.
And when the hunter found Susan's body, her wrists and ankles were tied.
He had a very similar fetish to what the authorities believed the killer had.
He's into bondage?
Yeah, that's kind of his thing. He's a really weird dude.
She says it's not just that he wanted to tie her up. He definitely had some odd requests during their sexual encounters.
She said he had a sick, sadistic side.
He would physically hurt you?
Not exactly. He was more into, like, mind games.
Like role-playing?
Yeah.
He liked to push these role-playing sessions to their limit, to where it seemed to them that maybe they weren't really role-playing anymore.
How about I leave you hanging there?
Please don't.
He found satisfaction when she would tell him she was afraid for her life. You kind of are putting yourself in a very vulnerable position if you're on the receiving end of that person's fetish. So it can be a little scary sometimes to give up that part of yourself and lose control.
Sean!
The question is, had Sean lost control?
If this guy gets off on scaring women and making them feel like they're in danger, it's not hard to imagine that he took things to the next level.
Could that explain Susan's death?
And you're sure that Susan hooked up with this Sean guy?
Yeah.
The detectives asked Naomi, do they think that Susan would be okay with the role-playing?
She says that Susan wasn't into those types of things.
Although she also said that Sean was willing to pay extra to get you to play along.
It sounds like Sean is likely the guy that detectives are looking for.
Now all they have to do is find him.
When they ask Naomi if she knows Sean's last name, she reveals that she doesn't.
But she can tell detectives a few things about him.
He's white, in his 30s maybe.
He drives a red truck, and he works for the post office.
And in a small town like Rome, Georgia, that may be enough.
So after talking to Naomi, the detectives reached out to the town's post office.
That would be great, thanks.
They get a potential match.
A mail carrier named Shane Abernathy.
The name is similar to the name Naomi provided, but not exact.
So is this the right guy? He does work at the post office, and he does drive a red truck.
For confirmation, the detectives take the photo of Shane from his personnel file and ask Naomi to come down to the station.
Then they showed her a photo lineup with Shane's picture mixed in.
She was immediately able to identify Shane as the person that has been a client of hers.
Detectives assume that Shane used a fake name with Naomi and Susan.
But even with Naomi's positive identification of the man she knew as Sean, the detectives are a long way from making an arrest.
They didn't have anything connecting him directly to the crime.
Detectives decide to learn what they can about him.
So they set up surveillance They studied him, gathered intelligence.
They also make discreet inquiries with his coworkers.
Detectives learned that the 34-year-old is very introverted.
He keeps to himself a lot, and he's very much about routine and order.
His method of going about his day is conducive with someone who enjoys being in control of a situation at all times.
They also suspect that he may be suffering from some mental health issues.
Shane is potentially a very dangerous man.
However, the detectives are also surprised to learn that this loner isn't alone.
Detectives discovered that Shane is married.
Based on the fact that he used sex workers to explore some of his fetishes, they do not believe that his wife knows about his hidden desires.
But there's still nothing other than Naomi's ID to connect him to Susan or her murder,
He doesn't even have a police record.
which may present them with an opportunity.
Since he doesn't appear to be a hardened criminal, the detectives may be able to rattle him.
Detective placed a call to Shane.
Hello?
They kept it casual, engaging him in conversation.
Then, once his guard is down, they drop the hammer.
They tell Shane that they're investigating a death, and his name came up.
You may have seen it in the news. The woman in the woods on the outside of town?
And they're just hoping to find out if he knows anything that may help them.
Will the nudge have the desired effect?
Shane said he didn't know anything about the death.
Yeah, you said my name came up?
From a friend of the victim.
I don't know who Naomi or Susan is.
This catches the detectives' attention because they hadn't shared the names of anyone involved.
They basically caught him slipping up.
Now they just need to keep him on the hook.
Detectives tell Shane that it's okay that he doesn't know anything, but that they need him to come down to the precinct.
Shane is very reluctant, but he agrees to come down to provide an interview.
All right, I'll see you then.
He sets up a time with the detectives before he hangs up the phone.
All right, we'll see you then.
But will he keep the appointment?
Based on everything that they've learned about Shane so far, detectives know that he's obsessed with control.
And they don't really know what his next move is going to be.
Fearing he may try to flee, the detectives keep him under surveillance.
Instead, he did the opposite.
He shows up the day before his scheduled interview.
Hey, my name's Shane Abernathy. I need to speak to a detective.
Hold on, let me see if they're here.
And he's demanding to speak to the detectives.
Hey, Shane Abernathy's out there to see you guys.
Shane Abernathy, the man detectives suspect murdered 44-year-old sex worker Susan Christian, has just walked into the Rome, Georgia Police Department.
Hey, my name's Shane Abernathy. I need to speak with the detectives.
He shows up demanding to talk to the detectives.
Hold on, let me see if they're here.
What's interesting is that the detectives had already made arrangements to interview Shane the following morning.
Although Shane showing up early isn't exactly a surprise for the detectives.
Shane Abernathy's out there to see you guys.
They know he has this need to control the situation.
Which is why he tried to preempt their scheduled interview.
But the detectives are just as capable of playing head games.
Tell them we're not here. Come back tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
He tells that the investigators are not available and to come back at a scheduled appointment time.
After his power play backfires, there's little Shane can do but leave. But he's back the next day.
Sure enough, he shows up right on schedule.
And when he finally does sit down with detectives, he starts out by admitting that he does know Naomi Parker and Susan Christian.
He said that he used Naomi's services for several years. She connected him with Susan.
So you were paying for services for both of them?
Yeah. Okay, so what sort of things were you doing?
Detectives asked about his interest in using bondage. during his encounters.
How about I leave you hanging there?
And he voluntarily admitted that that was one of his fetishes.
I did that a few times with Naomi.
What about with Susan?
It wasn't her kind of thing.
Shane said that was something that Susan didn't want to do.
So you never tied her up?
Not that he hadn't tried.
Shane said he attempted to talk her into it, offered her extra money and things like that.
But it led to a lot of arguments between the two, so he just kind of gave up and he didn't even try that with her anymore.
Shane said that he respected that this was something that Susan didn't want to do.
Okay, on the 14th, did you ask her to do bondage then?
I didn't ask her anything. I didn't even see her that day.
He refuses to admit that he did in fact see Susan on the day of her death.
No matter how the detectives ask, he will not confirm that.
But despite the denials, Shane keeps talking.
Detectives get the impression that something's weighing heavy on his mind.
The authorities can tell that there's something that's really bothering him, that he needs to get something off his chest.
And they give him a chance to do it.
Detectives take it slow with him.
They asked him questions, give him time to think about him.
They also gave Shane the impression that they were on his side.
Look, we understand why you wouldn't want to say you were with her that day.
I mean, it would look bad, even though nothing happened. So, let us help you out.
Detectives can tell that he's getting tired of holding back.
And eventually, the strategy starts to pay off.
They finally got him to a place where he admitted to seeing Susan the day she died.
He also admitted that he tried to pressure her into more than just a simple hookup.
He kept pushing until it led to an argument.
How many times do I have to tell you no?
He tells the authorities that he has never seen her get that upset before in all the time that he's known her.
And she started to freak out, you know?
So what did you do?
Nothing. I didn't touch her.
Shane insists that he did not hurt Susan.
But the detectives don't believe him.
Someone smashed Susan's skull with a rock, and it wasn't Susan.
Detectives were very persistent. They encouraged Shane to tell the truth.
Come on, man. This is your chance to tell your side of the story.
I know.
Finally, Shane starts to break down.
Shane says, I never meant to hurt her.
When interviewed by detectives investigating the murder of Susan Christian, suspect Shane Abernathy has admitted that he was involved in the sex worker's death.
He admits that things did go too far.
But he claimed that he never meant to hurt her.
But you did see her on November 14th.
Yeah, we had a date.
For sex?
Yeah.
He says that he made arrangements with Susan to use her services around 5:30 p.m.
Although Shane says that when he got to her house, things took an unusual turn.
Instead of meeting in her house, as they usually did, Susan came out to his pickup truck.
Susan came out and said, hey, let's go on a road trip.
Where are we going?
We'll see.
Shane said that she directed him southbound on Highway 27.
He drives until they're in an area that's very secluded.
They got out of the truck, went around to the back, and sat on the tailgate, where Susan was going to perform a sex act on him.
So what happened then?
Regular sex, it doesn't really work for me.
So he thought he'd try and amp things up.
Even though he knew that Susan wasn't interested in bondage, he still decided to ask her.
Brought the ropes as well, if you want to give it a try.
He asked her whether he could tie her up.
How many times do I have to tell you no?
But Susan, as usual, said no.
Although According to Shane, it was more of a hell no.
This time, he says that she freaked out more than she had in the past.
Just take me home.
Just this once, I swear it'll be fine.
What is wrong with you? No, let's go.
She said that she was claustrophobic and couldn't deal with being tied up.
She started freaking out, so that's when it happened.
What?
I lost it.
Shane said he had no idea why her refusal upset him so much this time, but it sent him into a rage.
He says he blindly groped for something to hit her with.
And smashed it over her head.
Then, once she was down on the ground, Shane had gone ahead and tied her up.
But at that point, he realizes that something is very, very wrong.
He realized that she wasn't breathing.
Susan, wake up!
He panicked, he freaked out.
He gets in his truck and he leaves the scene. He speeds off as quickly as he can.
Why didn't you call the police?
Because I was scared. I wanted to get out of there.
Shane said it happened all so fast.
He's very emotional at this point in the interview. He states that he didn't mean to hurt her.
I don't know what got over me.
He expressed extreme remorse and agreed to cooperate with the detectives.
All right, stand up. You're under arrest for the murder of Susan Christian.
The detectives take the confession to the district attorney.
At this point, the district attorney's office brings charges against him. They charge him with murder, aggravated assault, and with aggravated battery.
The detectives also secured a series of search warrants.
But when the detectives search Shane's house, the results are disappointing.
There's no evidence in his home that directly connects him to Susan.
However, there was plenty of circumstantial evidence tying him to the crime.
While processing his home, detectives found a computer with 900 images and videos.
These videos portray bondage and violent sexual acts.
And when the search moves to Shane's truck, the detectives hit the jackpot.
During the course of processing the truck, detectives find blood stains on the driver's door, the seat, the tailgate, and the bumper.
And the crime lab confirmed that the blood was Susan's.
Faced with an overwhelming amount of evidence against him, Shane agrees to a plea deal.
In exchange for his plea, the murder charges are reduced to voluntary manslaughter.
Since Susan's activity as a sex worker would likely be a central theme of the trial, her family was thankful for the plea.
It gave me peace to know that we didn't have to go through a trial.
But the family is less pleased with Shane's sentence.
He's sentenced to 40 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years.
That means that Shane could be released in the year 2027.
I just don't feel like that time justified the crime that was committed. When you take a life, then you should stay in for life. That's just my outlook on it. I wasn't pleased with that sentencing, but it was out of my control.
Because at the end of the day, Shane didn't kill just a sex worker. He killed a human being.
Nobody deserves to die like that. You know, it don't matter what kind of life they live in.
There's often a stigma about sex workers, but at the end of the day, they're just trying to make a living.
We know that in our society, people find themselves in situations they wouldn't normally be in if it wasn't for circumstances that forced them there.
Susan's work as a sex worker should not define her.
She was a mother, a daughter, a sister, a aunt, a grandmother, a loved one, a family friend. And people should know that Susan was loved, she was loved, and she's missed.
Anthony was a great person, man, kind-hearted, loved his kids, and he'll give you the shirt off his back. When we got the news, I got to like a corner, and I just balled up, man, and was just crying, because I couldn't believe it.
He spotted someone sort of pop out from behind the house wearing all black.
Multiple gunshots ring out, followed by the sound of screeching tires.
He felt very disrespected, and so he wanted revenge.
He's been humiliated. You've got to retaliate.
He was so angry, so bent on getting one guy that he didn't care who else had to get hurt.
I found it pretty chilling. He showed absolutely no remorse.
The city of Rock Hill, South Carolina, sits just 20 miles south of Charlotte.
The Rock Hill community is grown up around the downtown area, and then, of course, neighborhoods keep building out of that. And so the neighborhoods closest to downtown are the oldest ones, and then things that begin to push out towards York and Charlotte and Fort Mill, some of the newer, more modern type neighborhoods. But overall, the whole community is very focused on sports, athletics, great school system, lots of parks and playgrounds, and generally a really great place to raise a family.
On August 9th, 2015, it's around 11 p.m. when multiple calls come into the Rock Hill Police Department's 911 dispatch center.
At this time, the neighbors heard 8 to 9 gunshots ringing out. No one knows what's going on. There's chaos on the scene.
Noise complaints are extremely frequent, especially in the Frank Street area. Hearing gunshots also is not infrequent, even if it's just something innocent like someone shooting in their backyard for fun. But in this case, the noise complaint coincided with gunshots. There happened to be other officers nearby who heard those as well.
And they heard multiple gunshots ring out, followed by the sound of screeching tires.
The officers who are already close by are able to get over to Frank Street pretty quickly.
There were quite a number of people around the victim who was in the front yard.
They find a man laying in the grass, face first, bleeding from his head with an apparent gunshot wound.
He was shot twice, once in his arm and once in the head.
It appeared he saw the shooter and threw up his arms to block the shot, but when he was shot in the head, he immediately went down.
They located a faint pulse on him. He was still alive at the scene at the time.
They roll him over to administer first aid, and they find a gun underneath him.
The gun was just lying between him and the ground, which is a handgun. So it was pretty clear that he had either been holding it or it had fallen out of his waistband where he fell. But they did just treat him right there until the medics arrived.
Since the .380 caliber gun was found underneath Anthony, police think that he was carrying it.
They didn't know exactly what had happened, but one, it's not unusual for people in that neighborhood to carry weapons for protection, and two, it could have easily been assumed that he and another person were possibly shooting at each other. They wouldn't have known that until they got the area cleared and were able to begin searching for spent shell casings. He also had his South Carolina identification in his pocket.
The man is identified as 30-year-old Anthony DeMond Hart.
The victim's still alive. They're trying to work him, trying to save him. He is transported to a hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Many of the people who are out in the street know Anthony, and so word gets around pretty quickly.
They called me and it was like, man, Anthony just got shot. I was like, what? So, like I said, I got the keys, took off to the hospital. His friends was there and family was there. It was kind of a couple laughs at first, just joking about things in the past, but because we didn't know the severity of it.
Anthony Hart was born on August 12, 1984.
Anthony was born and raised in Rock Hill. He lived there his whole life.
He got a little brother. He kind of took him under his wing. You know how it is growing up with sisters and brothers. You yelling at them and fussing and fighting. You know, it's always yelling, somebody yelling at somebody. Anthony act just like his father. His father is loud, just like Anthony was loud. His mother, she was laid back. We met in high school. If I could describe him with one word, it'd be loud. You knew Anthony was somewhere nearby and didn't even see him, but you heard him.
Anthony had a lot of friends. He played sports, and his mom's house was always filled. He had a lot of personality and a really big heart.
The list goes on with very kind, hard moments he did. And he'll give you the shirt off his back. Me and Anthony graduated in 2002. Anthony went straight into the work field. We both did, kind of started working right after high school. When it came down to it, to pay the bills, we were hard workers.
He became a father in his early 20s, and then he went on to have 2 more kids.
He has 2 boys and a little girl. He loved his children. He was a great, great family man. He was a great father.
Anthony eventually went to school to be an electrician. He thought that would be a good career and he would be able to support his kids. So when he wasn't with his kids or working, he liked to hang out with his friends in the neighborhood.
In our free time, we played cards. We loved to gamble. We might gamble on who walking in the door next. But it was mainly cards, dice, stuff like that, football games. We would gamble on anything.
He was a good guy who worked hard and kept a low profile. He loved his kids and would help anyone who needed it.
He was one of those guys that you just wouldn't expect to have no drama, no beef.
On the night of August 9th, 2015, word that Anthony had been shot shocks his friends and family. They gather at a hospital in Charlotte, where they wait for an update.
Mama and Daddy, they were there because we didn't know, the situation at first. Everybody kind of was filling in what was going on, so I kind of got filled in when I got there.
Anthony was shot in his left temple and twice in his left forearm. Apparently, Anthony was trying to block the shots with his forearm, and Anthony then died not long after he arrived at the hospital. The shot to the temple proved fatal.
When we got the news that he had passed away, man, it was just like chaos everywhere. Everybody started screaming and crying. I remember me personally, I got to like a corner and I just balled up, man, and was just crying because I couldn't believe it. We just all just broke. It was terrifying.
Back in Rock Hill, homicide detectives arrive on Frank Street.
I do not know exactly if it was during transport or very shortly after. I remember that we had not been on the scene all that long before we were notified that he had died.
This seemed as a regular shooting call, but after he died, it took it to a whole different level. It was now a homicide case.
We located 7 shell casings that were of a .22 caliber. They were all near the back of the house, though. There were none near Anthony or his, where he fell. The shooting had happened from sort of the back side of the house towards the side of it, which would have given a direct line of sight to the roadway where he was located.
The casings looked like they were from some type of long gun or rifle. They all appeared to come from the same weapon.
But not from the .380 found underneath Anthony.
It was apparent that his weapon had not been fired. It was fully loaded. There were obviously no spent casings around him.
It was pretty clear that he was carrying a gun, probably for his own protection, but he never had a chance to fire it in his defense.
Police speak with the witnesses.
People had fled the area after the shooting happened for fear of their safety. But there were quite a number of people who had been inside the home there playing some cards that night, just hanging out, sort of having a kickback, as they call it. And they were all mostly outside looking at the situation.
One of them is a man named Roderick Wright.
Mr. Wright was just a longtime friend of the victim, Mr. Hart, and he was another one of the persons there that evening playing cards and hanging out.
Roderick tells investigators that Anthony had also been in the house.
So they were just generally hanging out that evening. I don't know how long they had been playing, but at some point he stepped outside, I guess, to get some fresh air.
Roderick went with him.
He was speaking with his friend Roderick Wright, and they were just catching up outside the home where there was a card game going on.
And as they were speaking, Roderick spotted someone sort of pop out from behind the back of the house, wearing all black.
It seemed weird, and it put both of them on edge.
He saw that person step back behind the house, and he said to Mr. Hart, let's go back inside. They began to walk back into the house out of concern for this man that he saw in the shadows.
So Anthony hesitated for a minute, and then he said, I got to get something out of my car.
Anthony went to his vehicle. We don't know for sure what he did, but our assumption is that he got his handgun out of the vehicle to protect himself and his friend as they were then going to go back inside the house where they would feel more safe. And then they were turning to go walk back inside.
Before they could get inside, the man reemerged.
This man stepped back out from the side of the house again and indiscriminately opened fire.
There was just gunshots, one after the other, just out of the blue.
Rock Hill, South Carolina police are investigating the shooting death of 30-year-old Anthony Hart. Investigators on the scene speak with Anthony's friend and witness to the shooting, Roderick Wright.
A man came from the side of the house, dressed in all black, just opened up fire, started shooting, and he said he panicked and fled the scene.
He was definitely on edge and scared and had gotten his car and sped away. So it was a very traumatic moment for him.
The witness stated that he fled from the scene in fear of getting shot himself. So as soon as he heard that the coast was clear, he came back.
Roderick's statement helps investigators develop a theory.
If someone is dressed in all black with a weapon, sneaking up behind the house, the theories would then be that they were there to intentionally rob or kill someone. It wasn't a random act of violence. It wasn't like an argument that went sideways. And because there was a card game going on inside the house where money was being used in the betting, it was assumed that possibly the suspect was there to rob the people of their money at the card game.
Other witnesses who'd been at the card game report that one man left early and angry.
Sean Durham had been at the card game and lost his money and left angry and upset that he had lost the money. And it was assumed that he had come back to rob everyone to take back his money. That was the initial rumor that was circulating in the streets, and we heard that from many different people that night.
But Roderick can't say one way or another whether Sean was the shooter.
Roderick was only able to say that the suspect was wearing all black because the backside of those houses on Frank Street is very dark, especially that late at night. Very few of them have any back porch lights. And so it would have been pitch black, and Roderick would have been looking from a well-lit position in the street into darkness, and so he would not have been able to give any sort of a positive identification of the shooter.
They actually find Sean and talk to him. He admits that he left angry, but insists that he had nothing to do with the murder. He says that he went to a friend's house and stayed there the rest of the night.
Sean is still a suspect this time, but he could be lying about his alibi, so this time he's just a person of interest.
There's nothing connecting him to the shooting. No proof.
Detectives plan to follow up on Sean's alibi. In the meantime, more tips come in.
Investigators learned about a shooting that happened a week prior, and they're figuring out that this could be connected to the shooting.
On August 2nd, a man opened fire on a home on Frank Street, just 3 houses down from the scene of Anthony's shooting.
A male subject came in the evening, stood in the front yard, and opened fire into the house through the front windows of the house.
There were 9 people inside the home. Based on witness statements of individuals inside the home, it appears that one of the first or second rounds caused the blinds, the window dressings to fall. There were 2 small children, toddlers really, who were playing in the floor of the living room. He continued to fire multiple rounds into the house before fleeing the scene.
There were several people at home at the time, including a grandmother, a pregnant woman, and children.
Somehow, no one was killed.
The shooting was immediately reported by the family that lived there. The male subject inside had either been grazed by a bullet or by glass, and so he needed some medical treatment. The family was clearly traumatized by the shooting.
Investigators identified a suspect in the shooting.
One of the residents of that home. She did not know his name, but she knew him to go by Q.
The next day, by utilizing the nicknames that had been given to us, we were able to produce a photo lineup, go back to the family, and one of the young women was willing to cooperate with us and identify him as the shooter.
They learned that his real name is Quinteris Miller, and he was just 17 years old.
Based on her identification and the other evidence collected in the investigation, Miller was charged with those 9 counts of attempted murder and discharging a firearm into dwelling. Police were able to obtain warrants for his arrest on those charges, but he evaded police.
We knew that through tips that he had gone back to Chester and was in hiding. And so we contacted the City of Chester Police and the Chester County Sheriff's Department, let them know that he was wanted for an attempted murder, and they began doing surveillance and looking for him.
There's no clear connection between these two incidents, just rumors.
When we see these crimes happen in the neighborhoods, we know that there are witnesses, but oftentimes people don't want to speak up because of their distrust for law enforcement, for one, and that relationship has been strained. In addition to that, they're fearful of retaliation.
You have 2 shootings just a few houses away from each other within a week. Are they connected? The only way to find out is to find Quinteris and talk to him.
After 30-year-old Anthony Hart dies during a shooting in his Rock Hill neighborhood, police look to question the suspect in another shooting, Quinteris Miller.
He allegedly shot into a house full of people, which included a toddler and a senior citizen. There's a warrant for his arrest now, but now he's on the run.
Word on the street is that the 2 shootings are connected.
People are saying that the same person who shot up the house shot Anthony, but police don't know if that's true, and if that's true, what the connection might be.
As police continue to hunt for Quinteris, they take a closer look at the first shooting.
The family did tell us that it happened probably because of the fight that took place there in their front yard earlier that day. The family made the connection for us because they knew that Quinteris was present at both incidents.
On August 2nd, a man by the name of Swadarius Beatty got into an argument or a fight of some sort with his girlfriend at the time.
Beatty's girlfriend is Quinteris Miller's sister.
He received a call from his sister that she was there, and so he went over there to help protect his sister.
Quinteris Miller arrived on Frank Street with a group of other people to confront Mr. Beatty about the altercation with his sister. During that confrontation, things escalated.
A young woman got out some pepper spray, and she sprayed Quinteris' sister and everyone who was in her car. Quinteris got mad about that and hit the pepper spray out of the young woman's hand. Well, that was Beatty's sister. So Beatty got mad and attacked Quinteris with the brick.
Suddenly, Beatty hits him in the face with a brick and knocks him unconscious.
And then he began to, again, hit Quinteris more times while he was unconscious.
The witness goes on to tell police that some good Samaritans jumped in to help.
There were 2 individuals about 2 houses down, a father and son, who were sitting on their porch and observing this go down in front of the houses on Frank Street. And after Mr. Miller had been knocked unconscious, Beatty was on top of him and continued to assault him. These two men got up and ran to help Mr. Miller, and they were able to effectively get Beatty off of him.
Anthony and his dad ran over and broke up the fight, and then Quinteris' sister and their friends were able to drag him into a car and get him out of there. No one was charged for anything that took place there because all the parties did not want to cooperate or press charges.
Rumor has it that Quinteris left the incident humiliated.
Beatty essentially got the best of Mr. Miller.
He felt very disrespected by the fact that he had been hit with the brick, and so he wanted revenge.
So at this point, Quinteris is embarrassed. He's been humiliated. Here you've come to help your sister, but you underestimated what you were walking into. So you expected to come in and save your sister, but instead, really someone had to save you. So now he's got to figure out what is he going to do to eliminate that, to make sure that he's not going to be made fun of, that people are not going to lose respect for him. Because oftentimes that's what it's about. It's about respect. And whether someone's going to challenge you or not, you've got to come back and make sure that you reestablish and retaliate for what has happened to you.
Miller returns to Frank Street, and he approaches the house there, and standing approximately 10 feet from the living room window, he opens fire with a pistol into the home.
Swaderis lived in that home with several family members, so it's suspected that Quinteris was just shooting into the home hoping to hit Swaderis. It's clear what happened there that day, but what does any of this have to do with Anthony Hart?
On August 13th, we got an anonymous tip.
The tipster says she overheard a disturbing conversation between Quinteris and two other men, Gabriel Mobley and Xavier Thompson, the night before Anthony's murder.
She heard the Miller and the others discussing what he had on his mind that night, that he needed a rifle to hit a lick, which is a term that essentially means that he wants to commit some sort of crime.
Gabriel says his brother has a rifle that he offers to Quinteris.
Gabriel Mobley retrieved the gun from inside the house and gave it to Mr. Miller.
The tipster says the men left the house immediately.
All three young men, Gabriel, Xavier, and Quinteris, left with the gun towards Frank Street.
Moments later, the tipster says she heard gunfire.
Witnesses say she heard gunshots. We know that this is the same day and time that Anthony was shot. And we know that three men headed in the same direction. And this is the same gun that killed Anthony.
Investigators are on the hunt for 17-year-old Quinteris Miller, a suspect in multiple crimes, including the murder of Anthony Hart.
A tipster tells police that Gabriel Mobley gave Quinteris a rifle that he may have used to kill Anthony, so they searched his home.
Because he was on probation, we had the right to search him and his house based on this tip that we got. And so we searched the house thoroughly, and we found a box of .22 caliber ammunition that had been intentionally hidden in the bathroom.
After searching the home, investigators found the bullets that matches the crime scene, but they don't find the gun that killed Anthony Hart.
He could not possess any ammunition at the time, so he was in trouble for that on the probation side of things.
They're getting closer, but there's still so many unanswered questions. Like, why would Quinteris kill Anthony? It just made no sense.
Then, on August 19th, investigators get the chance to ask him.
We knew that through tips that he had gone back to Chester and was in hiding. And so we contacted the City of Chester Police and the Chester County Sheriff's Department, let them know that he was wanted for an attempted murder, and they began doing surveillance and looking for him.
Quinteris was arrested in Chester, then transported to Rock Hill Police Department.
They spotted him getting into a car in downtown Chester. They just simply pulled him over, and he gave no problems. They arrested him and transported him up to Rock Hill for us.
At that point, Quinteris was arrested for attempted murder charges for shooting up the house.
Quinteris agrees to an interview.
He freely told us about the fight that happened in the morning, but then he denied having come back to shoot up Mr. Beatty's house that evening.
He denies involvement in any of the shootings.
Instead, he offers up an alibi.
He denied any involvement, but he did admit that he was in Rock Hill that day, that he was with the Mobleys, and he had claimed that he was playing video games with Gabriel Mobley at the time of the shooting.
And then once we got to the questioning of the murder, he requested a lawyer and he ended the interview and did not discuss that at all. We informed the family of updates of the case as it was going along. So once we had arrested Quinteris for the first shooting, that's when we spoke to the family.
Anthony's dad is familiar with the house where Quinteris allegedly opened fire after the fight.
He and Anthony had friends who lived a couple of houses down from where the incident took place.
It was a very common place for them to be, and that's when he remembered.
He and his son, Anthony, they witnessed a fight on Frank Street.
Anthony's father put two and two together and let me know that he and Anthony had actually intervened in that fight. Because to him, he didn't know that it had anything to do with the murder, and so he didn't think to mention it because it's not uncommon to find teenagers, fighting in the streets. During the fight, Quinteris Miller was knocked unconscious, but the male subject who was assaulting him did not stop hitting him even though he was unconscious. So Anthony and his father intervened to prevent Mr. Miller from getting more injuries while he was unconscious on the ground, and they helped break up the fight.
This is it. This is the connection between the two shootings, but it doesn't make sense.
If Anthony tried to help Quinteris, why would Quinteris seek Anthony out and gun him down?
Meanwhile, a former suspect in Anthony's murder is also in custody on unrelated charges.
Sometime shortly after the murder, Sean Durham was arrested on a completely separate case.
Sean was considered a suspect early on because he got angry and stormed out of the card game when he lost money.
While he was in the York County Detention Center, he was not given a bond for his charges, and he desperately wanted a bond, and so he volunteered to work with the police to clear his name, because obviously he had heard the rumors that he was being named as the shooter in Anthony's case. And so he and his lawyer were cooperative with the police.
On August 24th, Sean and his attorney reach out to detectives.
Sean Durham, he volunteers to help police get Quinteris to confess.
He stated that if he was put in a room with Miller, he felt sure that he could get Miller to talk about it and to admit that he was the shooter in that case. They arranged to have both Miller and Mr. Durham transported from the jail to the law center in Rock Hill, which is where the Rock Hill Police Department is located. They placed a camera and some audio recording equipment in a room. They brought Mr. Miller and Durham into that room.
On August 28, 2015, police in Rock Hill, South Carolina, listen in as Sean Durham attempts to pull a murder confession out of Quinteris Miller.
Quinteris and Sean are placed in a room alone together with a hidden recording device.
The investigators then went to another room where they watched, I believe, a live feed from the camera as Durham spoke with Miller about the incident. And it was that conversation between Miller and Durham that really sealed Q Miller's fate. He asked him, were you just trying to get one under your belt, meaning a murder, taking a life? And Miller just shook his head and laughed.
It would have given Quinteris a lot of street cred, And so he seemed quite happy to talk about the murder with Sean. Sean was able to get Quinteris to open up and talk about the murder because Quinteris would have thought that his information would be safe with Sean. Quinteris looked up to and respected Sean. They ran in the same circles, had the same friends, had been through a lot together.
How many shell cases they found? And they said they found like 7, 8.
Sean really just approached Quinteris from a position of being sort of excited about hearing the details of the case.
Sean starts pushing. He starts getting at the question that police really want answered. Why? And what Quinteris says is a complete shock.
Why? It wouldn't be wrong.
And he asked him, he said, you mean you killed the wrong person? And again, he laughed and nodded his head.
And it wasn't even meant for him. That's crazy, man.
He then went on to talk about who the intended target was, that it was Mr. Beatty, and the reason why he was seeking retribution against him for being assaulted and getting knocked out a week before.
Quinteris admitted that he accidentally shot the wrong guy because he thought Anthony was the man who hit him, where in actuality it was Swandarius Beatty who hit him.
Quinteris thought he was returning back to the same house he'd previously shot up, where Swandarius lived.
He still had revenge on his mind, and so he essentially decided he wanted to go back and finish what he had started.
We're talking about a boy who's probably never done anything this serious before. He's walking through an extremely dark area. His eyes may not be adjusted correctly. He was actually several houses down. Quinteris essentially said that he just popped out. He started spraying, which means just shooting the weapon at the two people that he saw.
He mistakenly believed that one of those two men was Mr. Beatty. He indiscriminately opened fire on these two individuals, striking, one of the bullets struck Mr. Hart in the head and killed him.
Oh, one got hit. Damn, bro, that's crazy, man.
Quinteris knew that he had not killed Beatty, but it didn't have much of an impact on him as to who he had actually killed.
You know where it's coming from. Come.
I found it pretty chilling, too, that he showed absolutely no remorse. To find out that you mistakenly killed an innocent man, someone you didn't even know, and to show no contrition or remorse, I thought was particularly chilling about Mr. Miller.
Even more chilling is the fact that Anthony attempted to help Quinteris.
The real tragic irony in this case is that the man that he mistakenly shot, Anthony Hart, was one of the two individuals who saved him a week before when he was being assaulted in front of the houses on Frank Street. Anthony Hart intervened for Miller.
Investigators finally have what they need.
Once we heard Quinteris give that information, it confirmed for us that this was all tied back to the August 2nd shooting at Beatty's home. This was just a 16-year-old who wanted revenge because he got hit in the fist with a brick. It really just made the whole thing that much more tragic.
With that confession, that was enough for officers then to charge Mr. Miller with the murder of Anthony Hart at that time. Under South Carolina law, he was an adult, so he was tried and prosecuted as an adult.
Following a taped confession, Quinteris Miller faces over 20 charges, including murder and multiple accounts of attempted murder. Investigators continue to work the case, interviewing his alleged accomplices in the murder Xavier Thompson and Gabriel Mobley.
G. Mobley and Xavier Thompson went with Quinteris to commit the crime.
They put one another as the accomplice to Quinteris, and they tried to protect themselves. And so Xavier ultimately said, it was Gabriel and Quinteris who went to go do the shooting. Gabriel said, no, it was Xavier and Quinteris who went to do the shooting. So they were being somewhat cooperative, but it was hard to tell which one was telling the truth. It seemed a little bit more spur of the moment for Xavier and Gabriel to be involved in the case. It seemed like they were going along with their friend because it might have been an exciting thing. Maybe they didn't know exactly what he intended to do, although he did take a firearm to go do a lick. They weren't completely unaware.
They tell investigators that they dumped the gun in the woods.
They hid the gun somewhere. We never did find the murder weapon.
Prosecutors don't want to take any chances. They offer Quinteris the opportunity to plea.
Because we did not have direct physical evidence like fingerprints or DNA. There was no video of him committing it. That would still be a strong case, but not a guaranteed one.
For months, Quinteris and his attorneys refused.
Well, the case was a little bit more than a year old, and we had been unable to reach a plea agreement. The case was set for trial in the early part of 2017. It was actually not until just days before this trial was scheduled to start on a Monday morning that we received confirmation from Mr. Miller's attorney that he wanted to accept our offer to plead guilty. Miller wanted to plead guilty under the doctrine of North Carolina versus Alford, so he did not actually have to admit his guilt, but he acknowledged that there was substantial evidence against him enough that there's a substantial likelihood that a jury would find him guilty. And with the evidence confirmed against him, he accepted the state's offer and pled guilty for the negotiated sentence of 30 years. He cannot be released early, he cannot make parole.
Quinteris does not make a statement or give any details of his crimes.
He was so angry, so bent on getting one guy that he didn't care who else had to get hurt along the way for him to get that revenge against just one person. So in his case, an entire family was traumatized. There were an elderly woman and a pregnant woman, children who their lives were put at risk when Quinteris shot up their home. Obviously, an innocent man, Anthony, lost his life over this, and ultimately, Quinteris never got the revenge he wanted.
Part of the tragedy is that he didn't just take Anthony Hart's life, he threw his own life away. And over something as just trivial as being knocked out in a fight. You know, I think that it's clear from his actions, mistakenly shooting the wrong person, that he's a very dangerous person. And his propensity for violence is obvious from the facts and the evidence in the case.
Anthony's killer was caught, and he is getting the consequences for what he did to Anthony. But I'm sure that his family would rather have Anthony alive today than, you know, another young man in prison.
There's just something about Anthony Hart acting as a good Samaritan and intervening for this man who ultimately killed him that just would be so hard for me, I think, to stomach as a family member.
Like, this guy literally was helping you out, and, you know, you not paying attention, or you just filled with rage and want a retaliation, just come out and just start shooting, and not knowing you just took the life of the guy that helped you out. It was crazy. It was just stupid. That shows you what type of person Anthony is. A very, you know, kind person, will give you the shirt off his back and, you know, help anybody in need.